Good morning. Happy New Year. Scott Stanfield. I am the modern longevitarian. And I want to say, people, everybody out there, thank you for watching on Spirituality Gone Wild. Thank you for tuning in on LinkedIn. And such a blessing. And I'm so happy to start out strong. No pun intended. Well, maybe pun is intended. 7 Secrets of Strength. And this is something that I started putting together back in the summer. And I was like, what can I start out the new year with on Modern Longevitarian for a solo episode? And this is episode number 57. And we're beginning a new year, right? The new year is a lot of people are trying to put 2020 back behind us, right? So hindsight's 2020, which is another pun that I could throw out there, and trying to put that behind us. And so I'm starting a group this month that is focused on weight loss. So if that is something that you are really super interested in for your resolutions or just in general, or to get your health span in order, your lifespan, your longevity, becoming a modern longevitarian is something that you could do and work directly with me. So come work with me, reach out to me here on, through comments or direct message me on whatever platform you may be watching, because this is something that's super important. Getting your waist to hip ratio is in the right place, and having your waist smaller than your hips is the first step that you can do for your longevity. And is if you're getting to that age where you're starting to think about, hey, how long am I going to be here? And I'd like to get strong for longer versus being here weak and lingering. You need to start out with, because your waist to hip ratio, or getting your weight in order. The second piece of that is getting strong, which is what we're going to talk about today. I've got these 7 secrets to these are my secrets. This is what I do to get strong. And also I got a bonus number 8. So there's 8 different secrets to getting stronger, your secrets to get for strength. And I want to encourage you to stick around for the bonus, because it's one that most people don't really think about, and it's something that we really miss. And so the first one is mindset. I want to read this quote that was in the intro by Paval. Now, Paval, he actually used to train Spetsnaz, which is like our top line Secret Service levels, or agents, right? So just and he's from Russia, and he introduced kettlebells to America. And he said, "Do you think you?" I'll read this again. If you think you are only strong if you can lift a certain number, whatever the number is, you will feel pretty weak most of the time. Strength is not a data point. It's not a number. It's an attitude. And I love what he talks about. And I've listened to multiple podcasts and read books like The Naked Warrior and his Kettlebell book, Simple and Sinister, those type of things. And strength is an attitude. And he talks about, all these different elements of strength. And one of my favorite books has been super impactful is his Naked Warrior book, which is what would he do in a world where he had no weights and had no kettlebells, or had no way of doing anything other than his own body weight. And it boiled down to 2 things: a one arm push up, doing a progression to build to a one arm push up, and then pistol squats. And it's super super cool, because I'm more about functionality, durability with a pinch of athleticism. And that may be because that's just my makeup. And those of you who are really close to me know that cardio is not my super biggest strength. I'm not the most, my aerobic engine. Maybe I was gifted with a little 4-cylinder, where other people were gifted with V8s or turbocharged V12s, and they can just run faster, do more, hike more, up steeper hills than I can. And that's fine. That's just where I'm at. So maybe that's why I'm doing a show on not how to build your aerobic engine, but your 7 secrets to strength, right? Because I like being strong and in short bursts. So I'm more of a sprinter than I am a runner. And I like jumping rope with weighted ropes, and I like lifting heavy things. And so this is where we're at. So your mindset about this is an attitude. So the first step in this is in your attitude towards lifting weights, is to make big jumps in weights or in the progression. And I learned this when I started kettlebells. And this will force your muscles to work harder and send the message through your nervous system to either get strong or else. And what happens is that in Americans, we even have 2.5-pound plates. We're doing a bench press. And I did this in the gym, right? You're like, okay, you're doing your bench press. And then what happens, right? You're like, okay, let's do a little bit more. Let's put 2.5-pound plate on this side and 2.5, and let's do 5 more pounds. And I can do 5 more pounds, right? No, let's not sneak up on the weights. Let's actually put bigger weights in place and bigger jumps in the progression. It's just so many things because kettlebells, when they originally came out, you can only get them in the original increments or original weights that were from Russia. And there before they were Americanized, and you can get them in every 5 pound increment. There was no such thing as a, going from, I mean, because they came in kilograms, 8 kilograms, 16 kilogram, 24 kilogram, 32 kilogram, which is basically 18 pounds, 35 pounds, 53 pounds, 71 pounds, 85 pounds, and then the beast, which is a 100 pound pounder. And you had to make these big jumps. So and another thing too, when you do these big jumps, it actually focuses you on technique, which helps you avoid injury, and that's super important, especially when you're working out, because we're going to get these. I love the way the British say it, these little niggles, or these little injuries and things like that. They're going to slow us down. Injury. If you're going to work out and lift heavy things, or get strong, you're going to pull a muscle from time to time. You're going to ache, and you're going to do those things. You're going to tear muscle, right? So it builds itself back up. You're going to do those things. You're going to have these little aches and pains and little small injuries that might slow you down. So making these bigger jumps, and having this mindset that I'm going to send this message to my nervous system that I'm going to make these big jumps in weights, that it's that some things that happen. So it makes you focus on technique. It will also it also would send a message to your brain telling you what's possible. There's been times that I've been doing a move and then make a big jump in a weight and go, I had no idea that I could do that many with that heavier of a weight. Now, what happens is that when I learned this with kettlebells, right? So if you're a male that works out and works out normal, if you're going to buy your first kettlebell, you're going to get a 16 kilogram or 35 pound kettlebell. For females, you're going to get an 18 pound or 8 kilogram kettlebell. And you're going to start with that. And you're going to use that one kettlebell to do everything in terms of kettlebell workouts until you can do sometimes up to 50 reps, right? Because you have to build a solid foundation, this really, really big foundation with one weight, so you can make a bigger jump. Because you think about this, a jump from an 18 pound kettlebell, excuse me, a 35 pound kettlebell for a man to the next one, a 53 pound, is a 51% jump. So how are you going to, if you're pressing 35 pounds, right? And now you're going to move to 53, you can't go from just doing 5 reps to go, okay, I'm going to go 53 and then go 5 reps. You sometimes have to be able to do, 40, 50 reps of a single weight to move up. And so we can also use this same philosophy of big jumps with dumbbells and with body weight. I'm gonna get that into a second, but but the next thing is that if you're going to go from a 53 to a 71 pound dumbbell, I mean, a kettlebell or weight or any of those things, or make another big jump. Again, that's a 32% jump in weight. And so you're sending major messages to your nervous system. You're changing your mindset around what is possible by moving a 32% movement or 51% move in weight, increase in weight, and showing how strong you are and proving it to yourself. And so sometimes, I talk about the what Bruce Lee said, which is the body will follow the mind, and Arnold Schwarzenegger said that. And mindset is everything, but there's sometimes the body can actually influence the mind, and we can do that with breathing through our nose and sending a message to our nervous system everything's okay, right? All those different things. And so there's my friend Gina, happy new year. I know you're in Mexico, and I know your heart's breaking for Nashville, where you lived so many years. So thanks for being here, Gina, and I hope your intermittent fasting is going great and getting at you in the new year. But this show is about strength, about how to build strength. My 7 and with a bonus 8 secrets, right? So number 1 is big mindset and making big jumps. Now, how can you mimic this, with dumbbells? Now, I bought and we own, dumbbells from 5 pound to 30 pound and 5 pound increments. And we did this when we did P90X all the way back when my 18-year-old son was in kindergarten. And so this was 13 years ago, and we have those, and those are good for some things, and we use them from time to time. My whole family uses them. Not my daughter so much, but my wife and my son use them, and I use them too, right? But you can do this if you can do a move with a 15 pound dumbbell, don't go to the 20, go to the 30 pound and make a 15-pound jump, and force your body to move bigger weights. Because when you're out in the real world and you like see something over there, you're like, oh well, I can only carry that propane tank from the car to the grill if it only weighs this amount of pounds. You got to pick it up. You really got to pick it up and you got to move it, right? If you're going to get it there. And you have to, so you don't weigh it, you don't know how much it weighs, you just know you got to move it. So strength is important just in our day-to-day lives. And so this is why I'm covering this. Starting out the new year strong, and getstrongforlonger.com. And this is so I want you to encourage you to go to my website, check out all the things, all the live shows are there. There's a coaching page. There's also, if you're interested in my book on sleep, you can go to sleep.strongforlonger.com and pick that up as well. I also want to take the moment to tease a new book that's coming out with the Spirituality Gone Wild group, which is going to be the Book of Secrets, and it's going to be from core group of co-creators that have given the one secret to life. And so this is going to be a super cool thing where you've got multiple people in multiple areas of excellence in life, and they're going to be able to we're going to put this book together, and it's going to be for free download. So just stay tuned for that. It's coming. I got so many things coming: tactical mindset, the amplified man. I mean, all these different things are coming. And also a new book on weight loss is going to be coming, which is going to be the one thing you can do to lose weight without changing your diet or exercise program. But I love exercise. It's a meditation moment for me. I'm ready to get my workout on today, and I'm super excited I'm going to play a game today. Don't put the kettlebell down for 10 minutes. And I'm going to grab my 53-pound kettlebell, is actually 55-pound kettlebell, and I'm not going to put that down for 10 minutes. And I'm going to do goblet squats, kettlebell swings, deadlifts, and I'm going to do a thing I call garbage and groceries, where I carry the garbage down the stairs and then I carry the groceries up the stairs with a farmer's walk, or it racked up here in a clean position. So those are the things I'm going to do today in my workout. But I spent my morning meditating, breathing, getting ready for this particular show and getting ready for the show. So how can we mimic this big weight jump with body weight? Now, this is a really cool thing because we can look at progressions, right? So let's say that you want to do, like Paval said, with a one arm push up. I'm going to use this just as an example. Pistol squats are another way of doing this. And there's a couple different things you can do with body weights versus doing them with heavy weights. And so it's all in the progression and how far the progression is down the way. If you're going to do push-ups, the first thing, go into a one-arm push-up, the first thing you could do is do a whole bunch of push-ups. And I've got another number 7. I'm going to tell you how I went from 45 to 66 push-ups in one set in just a 2-week period. So stay tuned for number 7, because that's a big part of what I do day in and day out, especially trying to keep my movement going during the day. But let's say that you're going to do push-ups. Let's say that you can get to where you can do, 40, 50 standard push-ups. And now you're getting bored and you're ready to move to the next step of the ladder. Well, if you're going to do a one-arm push-up, you also need to work on a cross core strength. So one thing to do would be to work on planks at the same time, and so not just a standard plank where you're on your hands or on your elbows, but where you're actually touching your shoulders, right? You're alternating. You got one hand, you go to one hand. Okay. So when you get really good at that, you can go to where you're doing a bird dog type plank, where you are, so standard plank, then a shoulder touch plank. And then you can also, and this is supplementary to the actual push up. And a bird dog plank is where you raise an opposite hand, right? Straight up, right? And you imagine I'm in plank, and the opposite leg at the same time. So you're going to a one arm, one leg plank, and you're just going, pointing like a bird dog, alternating between those two. Then you can lengthen the time you hold those. There's different things. So you're working on this cross core strength, and it's forcing you to do that. You can even, as you're doing these push-ups and you're getting up to where you're doing these 40 to 50 push-ups, you can do a single leg and alternate you pick the number 5, 10 alternating legs, and you're forcing this cross lateral style core strength, which is a whole different ballgame versus doing a standard plank or doing everything on 2 feet and 2 hands and those things, where you start using single hand, single leg type things to build strength in different ways. But let's say that you're going to make the next jump to the next push-up, right? What would be the next push-up? And you can do this in 5 steps. You're going to make it harder and do less reps, right? Or you can, when you have body weight, a lot of times you're going to add volume and you're going to add reps to it to get to where you want it to go. Now, this is obviously is on the road to getting to a one arm push up. And so basically you could do things like this where you're doing a standard push up, and there's several types of push ups: standard width, wide. You can do military where your hands are right under your shoulders, or more of a yoga style push up, right? You can then but then you can keep moving your hand, and the more you move your hands in, you're working on your triceps and your arms, right? And then the further you're out, you're working on your chest, right? You can do things like you could add in some stands. So you go deeper into it and you get less of a mechanical advantage, and you get into your weakest spot. So your arms are bending more when you go down because your chest is going further down. So that's another way to building the strength in that. But make a big jump in the progression, right? So go standard push up and then go, let's say the next step might be to go to diamond or your hands touching push up, and or heart to heart. This makes an upside down heart to heart push up, right? And you're doing that and working more of the arms, because the next thing, because when you do a standard push up with two hands, your hands are out here, but when you go one handed, your hands got to be closer in, right? So you need to get more arm strength in there. So the next step I would make in this progression from going to number two with the diamond would be number three, is where you got one hand close in and the other hand is the wide all the way out. So you got very little weight, very little weight on this hand over here, and almost all your weight on this one, right? You can do that, or you could do something where you put one hand is elevated, right? Where one hand is on on your kettlebell or on a ball, a medicine ball, basketball, soccer ball, I don't know, something is elevated, or on a step, right? It's up on a step 6 inches up in the air. So you got different elevations for each arm, and you're doing that and you're switching side to side. So you're starting to make this progression into, you got two hand standard, two hand diamond, and then you start progressing into this one hand. They're big jumps. You may go from doing 40 or 50 of one to like 5 or 10 of the next step in the progression because the weight's so heavy. And so you got to think, if you weigh like me, I'm 175 pounds. You think about how much if I do a one arm push up, I'm almost bench pressing like 300 pounds, right? Because in relation to that, let's say that, I'm doing, 150 pounds, one arm, right? That's like I'm doing 300 pounds. So you can get really strong and really big by doing body weights. Just look at gymnasts and look at the breakdancers and look at people who are doing, movement like Ido Portal and those guys. They're not lifting weights. They're just lifting. They got two things. They got body weight and gravity. That's it, right? So you can do this big jump and mimic what happens with kettlebells, original kettlebells before they were Americanized, and you can buy them in 5 pound increments, right? And do that with dumbbells, and you can do that with your body weight. You just got to think through it about how it is and look up different progressions. Now, if anybody wants any information like this in more detail and jump into the coaching program for weight loss focus, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to create these things for you or get this in more detail. All right, number two. That was number one. Let's go to number two. Start with the core and work outward with complex moves. Now, I want to give you an example here. All right, if you're watching this show right now, I want you to do one thing for me. I want you to squeeze your fist, and I want you to think about the muscles. Just squeeze it normal, just like you're not trying to do anything too hard. What happens when you squeeze your fist? You're like, okay, so my fingers are tight, my wrist is tight, my forearm is tight. Okay, so that's grip, right? And I'm gonna get into more about this about grip strength in the bonus. Ooh, I just leaked it a little bit. A little spoiler alert. All right, so you do that, right? Now, I want you to squeeze a little bit harder, right? Squeeze a little bit harder. Now, what muscles come in? Now, this is called the halo effect. Now, what muscles come into play when you squeeze a little bit harder? You still got the same ones: your hand, your wrist, your forearm, but your biceps coming in to assist in this grip. Okay, right? Okay. Now, squeeze as hard as you can and see what happens and see if it goes up the chain. All right, you squeeze harder, your shoulder comes into play, and even part of your lat does as you start doing this, right? So just by squeezing your fist as hard as you can, right, you're engaging your entire arm and your lats and your shoulder, everything, and doing that. So what happens is I'm sitting here talking about I'm talking about your grip strength and how it impacts your whole chain up your arm and even into your lat. But I'm talking about start with your core. Now with complex moves. Now, why is this? Because your core, right? You can work your core in multiple ways that don't involve you doing crunches or planks or things that isolate the core that are focused in this type of way. My favorite by far, and I don't have it, I didn't bring it in here with me into the studio to show you. I only brought one prop today. I should have brought 3 or 4 different props, but I was rebooting my computer, getting ready and writing this because I wanted to have super valuable content for you, and I didn't grab them before I clicked live. And today I have a little bit shorter intro than what I normally have, half the time, because I wanted to get to the show, and this is something I'm doing for the new year. And now one of my favorite by far is the ab wheel. Now you remember this? I remember my mom having one of these when I was a kid, and this has been around for a long, long time. But my son and I started doing this back when I was just first furloughed, and we both did on our knees 20 ab rolls on day one. Day two I couldn't do it. Day three because I was too sore. It's like it's if you but you think about the muscles that are moving when you're stretching out all the way like this, right, and having to pull back up. You're working hip flexors and pulling your core up that way. You're keeping your core, your entire core, all the way around, back, front, everything is actually engaged to keep you from hyperextending your spine, right? Your chest, your shoulders are engaged, and then when you're pulling back up as well, and your hip flexors are pulling, your lats are pulling as well. You're also gripping it on this thing, and so you're doing multiple muscles in this. Another one is a one arm Romanian deadlift. Now this works again cross lateral core strength, but you're also working your grip strength. Your if the weight's heavy enough, you're working your grip. You're working your forearm, you're working your bicep, your shoulder, your lats, you're bending over, you're working your lower back, your glutes, your hamstrings, everything to keep you stabilized with your lower leg, your balance, and all those things to keep you going. And so you're working your core, your posterior chain, your arms, your grip, your everything. And by bending over, keep it now. Romanian deadlift, let me explain this to you, is your legs are relatively straight. Your knees aren't locked, your legs are relatively straight. So you're not bending your knees down. You're actually bending at the hips and grabbing a weight, and then you're picking it up and doing that. And so Romanian deadlift single-handed with as much weight as you can pick up without hurting yourself is one of my favorites. And then another one very similar to that is farmer's walks, where you're grabbing a weight in one hand and you're holding a weight like a suitcase carry type, where you're just holding something in one hand on one side, right? So I grab the weight here, one hand, hold it there, and I'm walking upstairs, like my garbage and groceries, move, or I am walking around, the living room or wherever I'm at, the great room or wherever I'm at, or I'm outside walking around carrying a heavy weight. That's like carrying that propane tank, right? It's just functional and it builds durability. But what happens is I'm building my core by doing other things, and it's extending outward into my body and making me strong that way. And so, because core strength is not how many crunches you can do, it can be how long you can hold a plank or those type of things. Which, by the way, going back to a push up is just an active moving plank, by the way. And so that helps. Planks help with push ups, and push ups help with planks. But when you're doing this functional, hardcore, complex moves, I do other things like drop a medicine ball, like Bruce Lee did. Drop a medicine ball onto my core to make me tense it up, and you do that 10, 15 times, drop a 15-pound medicine ball like you're getting punched in the gut. That'll strengthen your core. And that'll also tell you how much little cheese you got floating on there, because it'll jiggle when that hits too, right? So that'll help toughen you up in a lot of ways. The dragon flag is another one which is a Bruce Lee move that'll help strengthen your core in that way. Russian twist is another one. You can add a little weight to the action to help with that. So those are different types of moves that I have incorporated in there. And one of my favorite planks is the cliffhanger plank, which is a modified version of like doing a ab wheel without any movement, where basically you are doing, or Superman plank, where you're moving your hands above your shoulders as far as you can. So imagine being on a yoga mat and putting a foot on each corner and a hand on each corner and doing a plank, because the further you move that out, right, your hands above your shoulders, the more pressure you're putting on your core to hold it. So that's another way of moving in this big increments to forcing your muscles to work harder. Don't hurt your back. This is one of these things, because your core strength is what keeps from hyperextending your back. And if you hyperextend your back, you're going to be out for a long time. So just be careful, don't hurt yourself. But that's why technique is so important, and moving in big jumps make forces that. Number three, now, I love this one. And this again comes from Paval and some other studies that have been done. And what happens with this is no more than 5 reps. Okay, lift heavy weights, but no more than 5 reps. And this could be done in doing things like, I'm going to do a pistol squat. I can do a bunch of Hindu squats or two-legged squats, jump squats, those type of things. And I'm going to move to into a single leg half pistol squat. And you could focus on doing 5 of these with each leg in only the eccentric, right? You could do that with body weights. Eccentric and body weights are a great combination. But my favorite is this, and once upon a time, I was like, you know what? I grew up racing go-karts. I've won championships. I've been blessed to do that. I love driving. What could I drive around here? And just, 5 miles from my house is a bobsled track. And I was like, well, what if I try out for the Olympics to become a driver on the Olympic bobsled team, in my 40s, right? That would be a great story, wouldn't it? And so I started looking up these different ways of training, increasing what we call in racing a horsepower to weight ratio, or building more strength without adding bulk and weight. And I found this great workout program that involved using only the concentric, okay, which is like the lifting part, not the descending part of doing this. And this was specifically with hex bar deadlifts, where you would lift your heavy weight and you would just pick it up and then drop it. You wouldn't ever go down with it. You would pick it up and drop it for 5 reps. And then you would move into you would move into a plyometric style jump, because you're incorporating more muscle fibers, because you're demanding so much from it, where you would get on a box and you would jump down and spring forward and do something like that, or do a broad jump, or just some sort of plyometric move right after that. So a way to build strength and speed is to actually lift heavy weights and then incorporate with a concentric, and then add in a plyometric jumping aspect to this immediately after. So 5 lifts, right? 5 lift, drop, jump, right? Plyometric, recruit more muscle fibers. And that will actually do this. And that was actually this coach, he actually, a track coach taught this girl how to do it. Her last name was Felix. She ended up beating Marion Jones' high school record in the 200 meters. Her lift in the hex bar went up by, I think, 150 pounds, and she only added 2 pounds of muscle, right? And so her horsepower to weight ratio increased dramatically. So there are ways to do this that are super, super. Talk about the hack of all hacks, because we think when we lift weights that we're going to add muscle and bulk, and especially with women, that you're going to get too much muscle and you're going to look too much like a guy, and you don't want to do that. Well, there are ways to do this, right? That you can add strength without adding muscle. It's all about the nervous system and recruiting more muscle fibers, right? Because we have 2 to 3 different types. Most people just say we have a slow twitch and fast twitch muscle fibers. There's even like this super twitch. There's a combination of both that some people talk about from time to time, but slow twitch is more like for the extended cardio. I'm going to go for a run or something like that. And fast twitch is for, explosiveness and sprinting and those type of things. And so some people naturally have more than the other. And that maybe that's why you like running or doing yoga, or or isometric type moves, and other people are fast and sprinters and those type of things. So there's different types of muscle fibers, but you can tap in and recruit both of them by lifting a heavy weight with a slow twitch, and then dropping it, and then doing that, and then moving to the fast twitch and adding that in immediately. And you recruit more, and you can build strength by recruiting more muscle fibers and without adding a lot of weight. So I'm big into horsepower to weight ratios. That's the fastest way to increase your strength and not adding a lot of bulk. And I think that's what Bruce Lee did. Super fast guy. He had a lot of strength on top of that, but he wasn't big and bulky. So, so if you're looking more for that Bruce Lee look than the Arnold Schwarzenegger look, I encourage you to look into this type. Okay. Now, we're getting into a secret that I really work on a lot. Number 4, build at your weakest spot or your mechanical disadvantage. So let me give you some examples of this. The bottom of a push-up, when you have to reverse the motion of the weight. is 1, right? So when you're at the bottom of a push-up, okay? So sometimes I'll put on a weighted vest and I will only work on the bottom half of a push-up because I want to be able to explode off the floor, right, with that. So think about this. You're doing squats. Your weakest point in a squat is when you're actually the lowest you possibly can be and your hips are below. So like your knees here, this is your knee right here where my hands are touching. And when your hips go below, you're at a mechanical disadvantage, right? Because what happens is you get stronger, your strength curve increases as you get closer to the top. You can go up a whole bunch of stairs because you're actually just bending this way. Hex bar squat is just in that motion of running too, right? But when you start, doing deeper squats, even body weights, and you get in a mechanical disadvantage, what you get stronger in this area right here, you will be able to lift more weights and you'll be stronger and you'll be more durable and functional if you're able to do that. But if you only work this top little piece, right, your strength curve, which is the next secret, how to optimize your strength curve, we'll get into that. But if you get stronger at your weakest point, you will be ultimately stronger not only from at the top of your strength curve, but off the bottom strength curve, and you'll be able to move more weights. So you can do that. But let's say you're just doing standard push-ups, right? And you get to the bottom and you just hold it for 5 seconds, right? So you can do slow push-ups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then hold for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you could push up slowly or you could explode up, right? And then you could go down slow, right? And then you can hold that for as long as you can. I mean, you may be even shaking and vibrating and all kind of things going on, but hold it in the weak spot. So this is in the weakest point, which is your mechanical disadvantage point, and then push back up. If you get where you're stronger at your weakest point, you're only as strong as the weakest link in the chain, right? And so if you can increase that, it can totally like exponentially increase your strength. And so this is not a dynamic movement. You can use this with isometrics or adding weight in that particular area, like I did. Like you can make it heavier at that point and then lighter as you go up, or only just work in that point or hold it with an isometric move. So that's one of my biggest tips that you can ever do to increase your strength is to increase and build strength at your weakest point or your mechanical disadvantage. For your pull up, where would that be with pull up? Now, pull ups are like squats for your upper body, super important. So, where is your weakest point in a pull up? Is it when you're all the way up or is it when you're all the way down? Right. For me, it's when I'm all the way down. Right. So, getting just moving from here to here, this is easier. So, halfway up to here is easier than moving from the bottom. So what if you just did only bottom half? You just did this, right? And then because as your strength curve goes up, you get stronger when you're getting your arms are getting closer, right? Is the curl, if you do a curl, right? That's more of an isolated move, and I don't do isolated moves that often. But a curl, you're stronger at the top, right? Unless you're fatigued, right? Then you are at the bottom, right? So just the same thing. So just work on the bottom part of that. And that's really good with hanging, which will help with your thoracic mobility and getting you to stand up straighter as well. So you can just work on the bottom half when it comes to that. The next one is optimizing strength curve. And you may not have thought about strength curves, but I think about, because I'm a racer, I think about horsepower curves and optimums, where your optimum horsepower is in the RPM band and torque and those type of things. And we used to use this in racing. Once we would put an engine on a dyno and we would see where it developed the most horsepower, and then we would know how to gear the engine for a particular racetrack and know, because we could watch where the bottom RPMs were coming off the corner and know where had the most horsepower. And I would tend to run below. I would go below the optimum horsepower so I could pull all the way through it and have horsepower a different part down the straightaway. That's one of my secrets to racing, but I'm not going to get into that. Now, how do I optimize strength curve? You probably see people doing deadlifts and bench presses with chains hanging off of their bars, right? Now, we're not going to gyms right now. That we're depending on where you are in the country, they're probably closed down. So how can you do this at home, right? And what happens is with those chains is as the weight moves up, more weight is added to that. Other people do this with bands. They add bands to the bars, and I've seen that a lot. And bands can work in that fashion. Well, I bought this band and a group of bands from Walmart. I think it was like $10 for these bands. And these are these big old bands like this, right? Now what I did, right? I'm gonna back up a little bit so you can see what you can do is you can crisscross this, right? Right? You can flip it over, okay? And then you can just put it on your hands, right? Like this. Okay. Put it on your hands like this. Go across your back. Okay. And you can see, I got it. Can you see that? Right. And then, so see how I'm holding that? You go down to a push up like this, right? So the further you go out with the, is the more pressure it puts on there. So body weight only here. And then as you're all the way down, right? That's why sometimes I do them with going back to number 5, which is, or number, excuse me, number 4 with build at your weakest point. I would do one push up set with a weighted vest on to work on the bottom part. And then I would actually do another set immediately following with this. And sometimes I even hook these on my push up bars. So I have zero tension. I just have body weight. I'm all the way down, right? And then as I push up, okay, it gets harder to do the push up as I go and get into my strength curve. As I get stronger, the push up gets harder. Think about that. As I get stronger, the push up gets harder. You can also do this, and I have these really cool handles for these are called were made by Clinch Fitness that can click that will hold these here, and you can stand on. You can do the same thing. You can create an X in it. You can just twist it over one time. You can hook these handles onto this band on each side, and you can do mimic hex bar deadlifts by with the band. And as you stand up, it gets harder to pull it. And so you can, it's super cool stuff using these bands where you're tapping in to building strength into your strength curve. And so as you get stronger in your strength curve, as your body is naturally developing a mechanical advantage, you are actually adding tension and weight to the actual move. Super important for strength because one static weight, because what happens is this: you're only as strong as you are in your weakest point. So if I'm only as strong to move my body weight in a push up, right, it's easier as I get up, right? But why not make it harder as I move, as my hands move up, my body moves away from the floor? As I stand up, I'm more mechanically stronger as I'm standing up than I am when I'm squatting. So why not make the move harder as I stand up? And you can do this at home. This is not something that you have to go to a gym and have chains and dumbbells and, or excuse me, barbells and all those type of things. You can do this when with at home with a like literally $10 from Walmart, right? You can have this shipped in. They have these all over Amazon. You can even buy these from Clinch Fitness. I'm not an affiliate with Clinch Fitness. I love their product though, and I'll do another show on those one day. But I bought those specifically to mimic hex bar deadlifts at home with these bands from Walmart and those $30 uh, handles that click on there. They're super cool, and I've used them a lot, especially during the summer. This summer with building leg strength, and I'm so excited to get back and use those. Today is my don't put the kettlebell down for 10 minutes. We'll see how that goes, and it's going to be super fun. So number 6, this is about flexibility. The more flexible you are, the stronger you are, especially if you're building your strength from each end of your range of motion to the other end of your range of motion. Most of us work in our strength curve in a limited part of our range of motion. A great example of this is the J curl, what other people call the Jefferson curl. And this is a gymnastic stretching move where it actually builds flexibility and strength from end to end of your posterior chain or your glute, your hamstring, your calf, your Achilles heel, all of that stuff, your spinal flexibility. And I'll give you a brief explanation of that. Basically, and a lot of people use this with standing on a box if they're super flexible. I do this with dumbbells because I can go deeper with that. Or I'm using a kettlebell and I'm standing on a stair in my house. Like we have a set of stairs in our house, so I do that. And basically, you start with a really, really, really light weight. I don't care if it's a book that's like you can use this heavy book like Tools of Titans or something like that, but just to get used to it because you don't want to hurt yourself and understand that you're. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you to go do these things. You go get checked out and get some professional advice or contact me and we can do a disclaimer and we can do that and we can get you started on a strength training and weight loss program. But or a longevitarian program, whichever one that you want. But the Jefferson curl basically is you hold onto a weight and you start going one vertebrae at a time. So just one at a time, very slowly, and you're going down. Right now, I'm not going to go all the way down because you won't be able to see me, but you go down, and this is at some point going to put some pressure on your hamstrings and your glutes, your posterior chain, which is the backside posterior, right? And it's going to pull, the weight's going to pull you down and it's going to stretch these muscles. And then you've got to reverse it and come up one vertebrae at a time. And in doing that, you're going to build not only flexibility, but you're going to build strength from each end of your range of motion to the other end of your range of motion. This is a gymnastic move. Gymnasts are some of the strongest athletes and people on the planet, and they use two things. They use gravity, they use the weights here, but they also use body weight a lot of the times. So it's super important to understand that we can learn from all elements of life and put these together. And so Jefferson curl is a super important way of doing that. It's one of the two things that increased my flexibility and helped me to get to where I could touch my toes, where I had traditionally, those of you who went to high school, elementary school with me, I used to run a lot. I won those awards for running, slow cardio. 200 kilometers in a year and things like that. And I remember Mr. Pace, right, our PE teacher, and we did a flexibility test on all of us. We were in PE class and we did that. And he said, "You're like George Rogers," and this is a South Carolina 1980s thing, right? He won the Heisman Trophy playing for the Gamecocks, and he said, you're like George Rogers. You're fast, but you're not flexible." And I've never been flexible. I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to be flexible because nobody in my family's flexible." That's not true. You can change your genetic expression. You can be flexible. You just got to do the right things to get your body in the right positions to be flexible. I now am more flexible at 48 years old than I ever was at 8 years old, ever. Right. And so you can get strong for longer and you can become more flexible for longer too. And that's super important, especially as we age. And it will also prevent injury moving forward if you're more flexible. We get injured a lot by being inflexible. I have a sticky point. It's my left adductor. Most people call this the groin muscle. So the muscle that pulls in. So it adds to, right, on my left leg. It does a lot of nasty things. It's really tight. I've got to stay on top of that, keeping it stretched out. And if it doesn't remain stretched out, it will actually start pulling on the muscles down in my lower leg. And as they go around my heel and make my left heel hurt. So all of this is connected. There's just different muscle groups in your posterior chain, but they're all connected and they're all wrapped in one single sheath, right? A sheath is like a covering over the muscles that goes from the back of your head, all the way down your back, all the way down your legs, around your heel, and connects in the bottom of your foot. So if you got plantar fasciitis, you may be stretching your hamstrings and your glutes, and all those things may help and relieve that because there's something pulling on it. So nothing I ever did to my foot helped my foot feel better. Stretching my hamstrings, especially on my left side and my left groin or adductor, really it made my heel pain go away. And so I've taught other people this. They're like, "My foot's hurting," and I'm like, "Hey, let's go stretch your hamstrings," and teach them a specific stretch for hamstrings. And next thing you know, they are actually their foot feels better. Kind of odd, but it works, right? So flexibility and building your strength from end to end of your range of motion is another secret of mind strength. All right, so we're going into number 7, one of my absolute favorites. This is so much fun, right? So we're 45 minutes in, and I know this is like, right? This is a lot of stuff, right? But I want to tell you this, right? So every hour on the hour, and I've done 2 separate programs, created my own with a variation of these, every hour on the hour style workouts. And the reason I do every hour on the hour is because I now work from home. I have a stand-up desk, but I want to mimic blue zones, and they get up and move every 20 to 30 minutes. So when I say every hour on the hour, I'm actually saying one day I'm doing a move that's my focus of a 2-week period, every hour on the hour. And the next day I'm doing it every 30 minutes. So let's use push-ups for an example. when I got furloughed from my job in Santa Monica, I came back home to our home in Park City, and I had been exposed to a virus that was floating around. And the reason California was shutting down and the rest of the world was shutting down and Italy was spiking like crazy, came home and I was in a spare bedroom, locked in there um, for 13 and a half days, right? We wanted to make sure we didn't get the family sick, right? So I basically was in this room, and my son and I have for years done this evil Russian push-up program, which also ironically was created by Paval, right? And basically, you on day one you set your max number of push-ups. Okay, you do what your max is. My max on day one of being in locked in a room, right, was 45 push-ups. That's what I could do. 2 weeks later, I did 66 push-ups. 66. I moved 21 push-ups in my max in 2 weeks, in 14 days. Now, how does this work? Basically, you set your max and you do a percentage of your max every hour on the hour or every 30 minutes on every 30 minutes, right? For the day, right? So if you can do, so imagine this, right? You can do, let's see, if you can do 45 push-ups on Monday, you would do 30%. Hey Siri, what's 30% of 45?
30% times 45 is 13.5.
Okay, 13.5. So I would round that up to 14. So on Monday, I did my max, right? 45 push-ups. I asked Siri what was 30% of 45. I didn't even have to do the math. I just asked him. He told me. By the way, his British male voice is kind of like Jarvis, right? From Iron Man, right? And so he told me 13.5. So now, if I do that at 8 o'clock in the morning, I do 45 push ups. At 9 o'clock, I'm going to do 14 push ups. And then at 10 o'clock, 14 push ups. And you get the idea. I mean, every hour I'm there, I'm going to do that. Well, the next day is 30% every half hour. Well, I'm going to do 14 push ups, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11, and I'm going to do them every 30 minutes. Now, I was in quarantine. What am I going to do, right? Now, you can do this at work. You can do this when you're out in the world. I mean, I don't want to, like if you're at Walmart or the grocery store, jumping down and doing, push-ups on the floor that people, when we're worried about germs, or if you were worried about germs, may not be the best time to do that, right? But you can skip them and make it do this in life, right? Um, and you can, right? You totally can do that. I've done this while working in restaurants. Go into a private dining room that's closed off and do push-ups, and I've done it over and over and over for years. Another one was this Navy SEAL program, very similar to this. That basically it was you would take your max number of push-ups and multiply that times five, right? So guys, that would be somewhere over 200, and you would say, I'm going to do 200 push-ups today, right? And I'm going to do them either in a short time frame on the even days of the on the calendar, and I'm going to do 200 in as few sets as possible, which would probably be, 3 or 4 sets for me, right, to be able to do that, right? Or I'm going to spread them out over the day with this very similar, like every hour on the hour type thing. Now, what this does is this, and the science behind this is amazing, and this works. I've done this for years. This actually came, I think my son was like in sixth grade, and and we had started homeschooling them, and one of his friends said, you should do the evil Russian push-up program. And I'd already done some Navy SEAL, type things, because you got to think when somebody goes in the military, they make them do push-ups every day. So if you think you need a rest day, right? This is marketing that you need a rest day, right? Your body can, no matter how sore you are. And by the way, workouts should be more like practice instead of like, forget the no pain, no gain type thing. You don't want to be in pain unless you're really trying to like tear muscle fiber and build muscle and be a bodybuilder and all those type of things. You just want to be strong and durable and functional. How functional are you if you can't walk around because leg day was such a hard thing to do, right? It's you want to just do this to a point to where you're not overstressing yourself and sending too much oxidative stress. After all, we're longevitarians. If you're watching the show, you're a longevitarian. So you want to the tortoise wins the race, not the hare. So back off a little bit. Build strength without hurting yourself and without putting yourself into pain. And so my point is this, right? Is that when somebody joins the military, they do push-ups every day, right? Drop down and give me 10, give me 20, do that. And that's where these things come from. All these military type guys realize that there were no rest days. There were no days you skipped push-ups when you were trying to be a Navy SEAL or you were trying to, train the Spetsnaz. You did it every single day and your body can adapt. It sends messages to your nervous system, and your nervous system says, hey, we need to send more energy to the push-up muscles and the push-up nerves and the push-up mindset, and it can make it happen. And what happens is that you can do more in a short period of time if you focus on it and do this, because you're just building in the neurons, you're building in the nervous system, you're building the muscles, and you're actually, because you're doing a percentage of your max, you're not is it going to hurt? Yes. And there's some days that hurt when you're doing like week 2, you're doing 75% of your max every hour on the hour, right? On week 2. Because so what happens is you do the percentages, you set your max, you do these percentages for the other 7 days in a row. Then the next Monday, which I always start on Mondays, I would you would set a new max, and so your new max is going to be higher. So because you don't really do a lot of push-ups on Sunday, you actually, it's like an active recovery day. You set a new max, and then you start over again, where I would do like, of my new max, let's say I did 55 push-ups on week 2, beginning of week 2. Now I'm doing 50% of 50 push-ups every hour on the hour. And then Tuesday, 50% every 30 minutes. So now you're amping it up. And by the time you get to that Thursday, you're doing 75% every hour on the hour, or 25% every 30 minutes, or of, so you're doing 25 push-up, or 15 push-ups every half hour. You do this for an 8-hour period, you're doing hundreds of push-ups in a day, right? And by breaking up into small pieces like this. And so it's a big deal. It's super, and it works. This works. There's a reason why I saved it for number 7, because I love this program and I've done it multiple times. And I've developed my own and wrapped it around with the Pomodoro method. Pomodoro method is a productivity technique where every 25 or 30 minutes you're taking a break. So I'm actually, my alarm goes off, after the show. I have these alarms that go off every 30 minutes, and I break away and I either stretch, or I do, if whatever my focus is, in whatever physical focus I have, push-ups, squats, primal squats, jaws if I'm doing that, right? Whatever my focus is, that's what I'm doing every 30 minutes. It's focusing me to move. All right, here's the bonus. The number 8, the bonus for secrets of strength. My 7th secret strength is number 8. Okay, this is it. You can only lift what you can hold. So grip strength is important, right? You see a lot of bodybuilders and power lifters and those guys where they're actually using wraps. And I've used wraps back in the days when I was hitting the gym, so I could hold on. You can hold on to more weights so you can lift it. And I'm again, I want to be functional and durable with a little pinch of athleticism, right? And so for me, that means that I only lift weights that I can hold. If I can't hold it, I don't lift it, right? And so, granted, I do put gloves on times if I'm, moving wood around to avoid splinters, or if I'm, if something's cutting into my hand, I want to have something to keep it from cutting in, like if I'm moving furniture or something like that. And so yes, gloves are important, and or working on cars to keep from the toxins and stuff going into your system, because you're trying to avoid toxin overload, to avoid chronic disease such as cancer and things like that. So gloves are important in this process, and it helps with grip. But the thing is that you can only lift what you can hold on to. So grip strength is important. You can buy grippers and things like that. You can do, use those type of things. And the stronger they are, the more it works the halo effect up your arm into your shoulder and those type of things. That does help, right? But like, for instance, I can do, you grab a kettlebell. I have a 71-pound kettlebell, which was, what is that? That is is that that is a um, I don't know what kilogram that is. Who cares, right? But it's a 71-pound kettlebell, right? I have that. Well, I can do 2 arm swings with a kettlebell, and I can do that kettlebell, 71 pounds. I can also do a 1-arm swing with a kettlebell. I can even switch in midair. All right. I'm not bragging. I worked up to it. The first kettlebell I ever bought was 20 pounds. That was for my wife, right? And I was using it, and I was like, this is heavy. I couldn't even do a Turkish get up with this thing, 20 pounds, right? It was so heavy because the weight wasn't centered in the center of my hand, right? It wasn't hanging out here. It was way up here, right? It was out there. So it adds more tension in different ways because of leverage and that type of stuff. So when you start swinging kettlebells, you got to understand it's a whole different thing. But moving to where I'd never had swung a kettlebell before to progressing up to a 71-pound kettlebell single handed, that you think about the tension that goes on there, right? And so, and when with the centrifugal force as it's swinging down and you're having to grip that and hold on to it, so grip strength is super, super important. So work on your grip. And you can, another way to do this is simple. Just hang from a bar. Go to the park and just hang. Or if you have a pull-up bar, just hang with two hands, right? And hold on to your body weight for as long as you can. And if your hands get stuck this, push them against your body and straighten them out, right? Do whatever you got to do to hang and or to hold on to a kettlebell or whatever those things are, because your grip strength is super important to being strong. That's the bonus secret to your strength. Well, I'm going to wrap this up here. Everybody, thanks for watching. I can see people coming and going in the show. Gina, thanks for dropping in a comment. This is starting out the new year. Happy New Year. Happy 2021. My name is Scott Stanfield. I am the Modern Longevitarian. Today, I'm going to recap real quick the 7, or with the bonus, 8 secrets to strength. Number 1 is your mindset, and your mindset around making big jumps in weight, similar to the original kettlebell weights, which are, sometimes 51% or 32% jumps in weight. Don't be adding these, 2.5 pound plates onto the barbell or 5 pound plates. Don't sneak up on things. You want to send a shock to your nervous system so you focus on technique and get that the right way. Start with your core and work your way out with a halo effect, right? And my favorite exercises for that are a single arm Romanian deadlift is one, the ab roller or ab wheel is another one, and the farmer's walk is another one as well. Also, number 3, 5 reps with heavy weights working on concentric, not eccentric. Now, if you're doing body weights, eccentric is important, so you can do that as well. And so, but anything more than 5 reps is bodybuilding. So you want to build strength. The heaviest weight you can lift for 5 or range of motion that you can move in with 5 reps or less. You go to 8, you're bodybuilding. You go to 12, you're bodybuilding in a different way. And that is a biohack in its own measure. Okay. Number 4, build at your weakest spot or your biggest mechanical disadvantage. Number 5, optimize your strength curve, which is the opposite of number 4. So if you want to add something like this band to a push-up or to a squat or something like that, where you're adding weight or adding tension as you build a mechanical advantage or in your strength curve. The more flexible you are, the more protected you are against injury, right? And you can build strength with something like a Jefferson curl or from end to end of your range of motion. So build flexibility and build strength from in your entire range of motion. And then every hour on the hour style programs, the Modern Longevitarian wrapped around the Pomodoro method, or you could get into something like the Evil Russian push-up program as well, which is another one. And then the bonus, number 8, which is you are only as strong as what you can hold. Your grip is super important. I hope you enjoyed the show. Happy New Year. Thanks for watching on Spirituality Gone Wild and on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Scott Stanfield. I am the Modern Longevitarian. And if today is your Friday, I hope you have a great weekend. It's time to roll the credits. Cheers.